So here we are, just a few weeks into the new year, and already the holiday season of last month seems to feel like a distant memory. In many ways, I'm kind of glad to see 2015 slip away, and to just imagine for just a moment some of the possibilities that a new year might bring. I just hope that one of those possibilities doesn't include the word President Donald Trump. My apologies to any of you who might be fans of the Trumpster. Here in MCC, we're proud to be a diverse and inclusive people. We will find a space for you somehow. It seems to me that last year showed us just how far we have to go in living out our image of ourselves as a nation based on equality and justice for all. There were certainly steps forward, such as equality, marriage equality for same-sex couples.
Amen.
But we still see the harsh backlash to that change in the movement of fear-filled politicians who want to enshrine discrimination under the guise of religious freedom. And last year also brought to light many, many terrible examples of the racism that still haunts our world. Amen. This weekend we honor the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., a man who had the courage to confront his society, a man who had the courage to face up to that racism and bigotry that was so prevalent during his day and is still so prevalent today. And I think 2015 made it painfully clear just how far we still have to go towards realizing the dream that he gave us. Last week we read the account of John the Baptist. It was the beginning of the season of Epiphany. And John was somebody who considered himself to be a lone voice crying out in the wilderness, "Make a way for God." And Dr. King continued that long line of prophets, that long line of bold and powerful voices calling the people back, calling us to become more of what we dream, to become more of what God calls and intends us to be. And in a way, our gospel reading is also a prophetic call. It sounds like a story of a great party, and somebody that you would certainly want to invite to a party of your own, to have Jesus come and turn that much water into wine. But it's also an invitation to allow ourselves to be transformed from mediocrity into magnificence. It's a call to become the good wine of this world, a call to a spiritual awakening to become our highest and best selves. Today we get a somewhat rare passage from the Gospel of John. And I say that because in the lectionary series, there's 3 years. Each one of the years is devoted to one of the 3 synoptic Gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke. And John doesn't get his own year. Instead, John's readings from John are peppered throughout all 3 of the years. And in fact, at each one of the major changes in the church season, we get a reading from the 4th Gospel. And today is one of those days. This passage is referred to as the wedding in Cana, and it's a story of the first sign of power that Jesus did in his ministry. He begins with the baptism and the voice from heaven proclaiming, "This is my beloved Son," and also proclaiming to us that we are the beloved. And then with this passage, his ministry gets off to a running start. In the preceding chapter, Jesus has begun to call his disciples. He's gone up to individuals and said simply, "Come and follow me." And they do, and they follow him. And some of those run off and get their brothers, or they get other people. And so a crowd is beginning to come. His disciples are beginning to follow him, and he's beginning to form that core of his followers. And at the start of this chapter, John sets the scene for us very quickly. There's a wedding. It's in Cana. They run out of wine. The disciples are there, and Mary, the mother of Jesus, is there. And when they run out of wine, Mary tells Jesus they've run out of wine. He says, "Big deal. What's that to me? It's not my problem." And Mary, being mother, knows what's going on, and mothers always know, don't they?
Yeah.
Jesus kind of resists a little. He says, it's not quite time yet, Mom. It just isn't the right, it just doesn't feel right. Let's just wait a little bit before we get things going. But Mary just pushes him. She kind of pushes him out of the nest. And she just tells the servants, do whatever he tells you to do. And so nearby there are these huge containers that are used for purification rituals, but they're all empty. And Jesus tells them to fill them up with water, and they do so. And when they draw some out, and they bring it to the steward. The steward is amazed. He goes to the bridegroom and says, "You saved the best for last. Usually, you serve the best wine first, and everybody gets drunk on the best wine. Then you bring out the $2 check from Trader Joe's." You don't know what I'm talking about. And so he's amazed at what has happened here, that the best has been reserved for the last. And so there are many different players in this story. And one of the unique features of John's Gospel is he gives us all these details, and he just kind of pulls us in to the narrative. He pulls us into what's going on. And so here in the story we have the bridegroom who runs out of wine. Well, why did he run out of wine? What, was he stingy? Did he not buy enough? Or was he a poor planner and he didn't plan enough for the number of guests that he had? Or was it the guests? Did the guests drink a little bit more than they expected? Were they a little bit greedy? Or maybe the servants. Maybe we see ourselves as the servants, the ones that are behind the scenes, that really know what happened. They're the ones that kind of know what's going on in the background, but yet their voice is never heard. Their story is never told. We have the mother of Jesus. John identifies Mary in that way, by her role rather than by her name. Or maybe we identify ourselves with the disciples. At first they're all excited. They found somebody that they can believe in. They found somebody that they think can turn things around and come and save the day. And then they see his glory revealed and they come to new belief. There's so many different characters that we can identify with. But I think if we try to identify with one of those particular people, we miss a main point of this story. Because the main point of this story isn't about the people, it's about the wine. It isn't really a story about a wedding, because we don't know anything about the wedding. The main player in the story is the wine. That's what takes center stage. And I say that because it's the first thing that comes up in the story. Mary tells him they've run out of wine, and he complains about it. What do you want me to do about it? And then there's the huge quantity of wine that Jesus creates. There's 6 containers, each holding 20 to 30 gallons. And if all of that became wine, that'd be over 180 gallons. That's a lot of wine. Yeah. That's a pretty good party, amen? Yeah, that would go on for a while. And perhaps we are like those empty vessels. Perhaps we are those empty vessels that are waiting around for some ritual, waiting to be used, waiting to be filled. Some ritual that might have some meaning but can easily become just another habit. These purification rituals were something that you did all of the time, and it would be so easy to just kind of go through the motions. Like today, I work in the healthcare, and washing your hands is the biggest thing about in healthcare. You wash your hands all the time. And there's a reason for it, but it can become rote. It can become meaningless. And so here we have these vessels that are a part of a ritual, but perhaps they have become unused until they are filled, and until Jesus changes that water and transforms it into something else. Maybe we are that wine. Amen. Maybe we are that water that starts out as something very common and mediocre, something that is so prevalent in our world that we just take it for granted. And maybe it is by the power of God that we're transformed into something that's fresh and new and different. Maybe we are the ones that are being called to move from mediocrity to magnificence. This is a call for us to live out our goodness. It's a call for us to be that source of grace and hope in the world, to be that source of transformation that Jesus was, to continue in that work, to continue the work of the prophets, to continue the work of Dr. King, a call to rejecting the darkness and instead choosing God's path for us. How does this happen? How do we make this move from mediocrity to magnificence? Well, it begins with an emptiness. It begins with an openness. To be that open and empty vessel, waiting and willing and ready to be filled. And then the next step isn't up to us. The next step is pure grace. It's pure, unmerited favor of God. It's the power of God to transform that which is dead into that which is living. It's the power of God to change that which is old and decrepit into something new and fresh and vibrant. It is the power of God that brings about the new creation that we are meant to be.
Amen.
And we are called to be that new wine in the world. After we've experienced that change, we then must be poured out and shared and spread around and drunk up by the world, bringing about joy and bringing about change and bringing about this new world, this new life that God has called us to. I would like to, I have a favorite author. His name is Ted Lauder, and he wrote a book called Guerrillas of Grace. And I would like to end with a prayer that I think sums up what this gospel reading is calling us to. So as I read this, it's really a poem prayer. I invite you to just be comfortable, to perhaps close your eyes and just allow these words to sink into your soul as you hear what God has to say. This is called Touch Me. Come, Lord Jesus, touch me with love life-giving as light, to quiet my anger a little and gentle my desperation, to soften my fears some and soothe the knots of my cynicism, and ease the pains in my body and soul, to reconcile me to myself and then to the people around me, and then nation to nation, that none shall learn war anymore, but turn to feed the hungry and house the homeless, and care compassionately for the least of our brothers and sisters. Reshape me in your wholeness to be a healing person, Lord. Come, Lord Jesus, expand me by your power, life-generating as the sea, to accept and use my power to do something I believe in, to be something more of what I mean to be and can be, to inspire me to dream and move and sweat and sing and fail and laugh and cuss and create, to link my passion with courage, my hope with discipline, my love with persistence, to enable me to learn from difficulties and grow in adversities and gain wisdom from defeats, perspective from disappointments, and gracefulness from crisis, and to find joy in simply living it all fully. Release me through your power to be a powerful person, Lord. Come, Lord Jesus. Startle me with your presence, life-sustaining as air, to open my heart to praise you, to open my mind to attend you, to open my spirit to worship you, to open me to live my life as authentically and boldly as you lived yours. Come, Lord Jesus. Be with me in my longing. Come stay with me in my needing. Come go with me in my doing. Come struggle with me in my searching. Come rejoice with me in my loving. May God's Spirit add actions to these words. Amen. Amen.